Okay, so get this. You guys sent in some really interesting stuff about finding like the divine in everyday life. And that's what we're going to dive deep into today. It's all based on the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, it's really cool how the Gita is saying that you don't have to go to some temple or read scriptures. You can just experience the divine right here, right now.
I love that. And it's so true. Like, think about when you're super thirsty and you finally get that first sip of water. It's almost like pure bliss, right? It makes you realize that even something as simple as water can have a touch of the divine.
Totally. And the Gita says that really directly. There's a quote from Krishna where he says, "I am the taste and water, the light of the sun and the moon." And he's not just saying that as a metaphor, he really means it. You can experience this divine presence directly.
Okay, so that makes sense. But how do we actually do that in our daily lives? Like, should I be like bowing down to my water glass now?
No, not exactly. It's more about shifting our perspective. You know, instead of seeing the divine as something far off and separate, we start to see it as something that's woven into everything around us.
So it's like instead of just gulping down my water, I should take a moment to appreciate it. And in that moment, I'm connecting with the divine.
You got it. And it goes way beyond just like water and sunlight. The Gita also talks about seeing the divine in other people.
Whoa, wait. So you're saying like everyone we meet has like a little piece of God inside them?
That's a great way to put it. Krishna says, "I am seated in the hearts of all beings." So every person you meet, no matter who they are, carries a spark of the divine within them.
That is mind-blowing. It definitely makes you think twice about how you treat people.
For sure. Like that random act of kindness, the patience of a teacher, or the love of a family member, it all takes on a whole new meaning when you start to see it through this lens.
It's like those little moments of connection become glimpses of the divine at work.
But doesn't that get a little complicated? Like, what about people who do bad things? Does that mean they have the divine in them too? That's a really good question, and it's one that the Gita actually grapples with. It doesn't shy away from the complexities of human nature, you know? But it does suggest that underneath it all, even in those who've strayed from the path, that divine spark is still there.
Okay, so we've talked about water, sunlight, other people. What about work? Does the Gita have anything to say about that?
Oh, absolutely. It talks about this concept called karma yoga, which basically means that any work, no matter how mundane, can become a form of worship if it's done with the right intention.
So like instead of complaining about doing the dishes, I could see it as an offering to the divine?
Exactly. There's a quote where Krishna says, "Offer everything you do to me." So imagine approaching your work, even your chores, as acts of service to something greater than yourself.
I'm starting to get this.
Yeah.
It's all about finding those moments of connection to something bigger than ourselves in every aspect of life. But I gotta be honest, sometimes it's hard to see the divine when I'm scrubbing the toilet.
I hear you. And that's where nature comes in. The Gita reminds us that those feelings of awe and wonder that we experience in nature, like watching a sunset or listening to the rain, those are all glimpses of the divine.
Yeah, for sure. Nature has a way of making you feel connected to something bigger than yourself.
And the Gita expresses that so beautifully. Krishna says, "Among all things splendid, I am the splendor." So that beauty and power and interconnectedness of nature, it's all a direct expression of the divine.
It's like nature's this incredible reminder of the divine. Always there for us if we just take the time to slow down and appreciate it.
Exactly. And speaking of slowing down, the Gita really emphasizes the importance of stillness and inner awareness in recognizing the divine. It's like our minds are so busy, constantly bombarded with distractions, that we miss what's right in front of us.
That makes total sense. It's like we're all running around caught up in our own thoughts and worries that we forget to just be present in the moment. So what's the answer? How do we quiet our minds and tap into that stillness?
Well, the Gita actually offers some guidance on that. It says, "Be steadfast in yoga, perform your duty, and abandon attachment." And it's not just talking about like physical yoga poses.
So it's more about like a state of mind.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's about finding that inner stillness even when everything around you is crazy.
You know, it's funny you mentioned being distracted by our thoughts and worries.
Yeah.
It's so true. Like I feel like half the time I'm just going through the motions, completely missing what's actually happening around me.
Yeah, we all do it. But the Gita is like, hey, wake up. The divine is right here, right now, if you can just quiet your mind enough to see it.
Okay, but how do we do that? I've tried meditation, but my mind is like a monkey swinging from vine to vine.
Well, meditation is definitely one way, but it's not the only way, you know? It could be spending time in nature, listening to music, creating art, anything that helps you connect with that sense of peace and presence.
Right? It's about finding what works for you. But I gotta say, there are times when it feels impossible to find that stillness. Like when you're going through something really tough, It's hard to see the divine when you're in the middle of a storm.
You're so right. Life can be incredibly challenging. But this is where the Gita offers another powerful insight. It says that even in our struggles, even in the darkest moments, there's a trace of the divine.
Really? I mean, when you're feeling lost and alone, it's hard to believe that anything good could come from it.
I get that. But the Gita reminds us that we're never truly alone, even in the midst of suffering. There's a quote that says, "I am the strength of the strong, free from attachment and desire."
So even when we feel weak, there's a source of strength we can tap into.
Exactly. And it's not about denying the pain or pretending that everything is okay. It's about recognizing that even in the midst of difficulty, that divine spark is still there, offering us support and guidance.
That's actually really comforting. It's like knowing there's a safety net even when you're walking a tightrope. So instead of asking, why me, when bad things happen, we can try to see them as opportunities for growth.
Exactly. The Gita suggests that challenges aren't punishments, they're opportunities for transformation.
So it's not about avoiding hard times. It's about changing how we approach them, about trusting that even in the darkness, there's a light guiding us.
I love that. That's such a beautiful way to put it. The Gita is inviting us to embrace the totality of life, recognizing that the divine spark exists in every experience, both joyful and challenging.
Okay, so let's recap. We've talked about finding the divine in everyday things and the people around us, in our work and nature, and even in our challenges. But how do we put all this into practice? How do we actually start to see the world through this lens of divine presence?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And the Gita does offer some guidance. It emphasizes the importance of cultivating awareness, slowing down and paying attention to the subtle signs of the divine that are all around us.
So it's about being more present, more mindful.
Exactly. The Gita suggests we can do this through practices like meditation or prayer, or even simply by making a conscious effort to be more present in our daily lives.
So instead of rushing through my day on autopilot, I can try to savor each moment. Notice the little things I usually miss?
Yes, exactly. Like the taste of your morning coffee, the feeling of the sun on your skin, the sound of laughter, a kind word from a stranger. These can all be opportunities to connect with the divine.
It's like training ourselves to see the world with new eyes, recognizing the beauty and the interconnectedness of everything.
And the more we practice this, the more natural it becomes. The Gita suggests that eventually this awareness of the divine becomes an integral part of who we are influencing, how we think, act, and interact with the world.
It's not just a philosophy, it's a way of life.
That's it. And the beauty is that it's accessible to anyone, regardless of their background or beliefs.
So whether you're a seasoned spiritual seeker or someone who's just starting to explore these ideas, the Bhagavad Gita offers a path to finding the divine in the everyday.
It's a journey of self-discovery, of deepening our connection to ourselves, to others, and to that divine spark that resides within us all.
And the best part is, you don't have to wait for a special occasion or event to start experiencing it.
Yeah.
It's available right here, right now, in the most ordinary moments of our lives.
Exactly. The Gita wants us to stop trying to escape from the world, to find the divine. Instead, it encourages us to embrace the world as a manifestation of the divine.
It's about finding that sense of sacredness in the everyday, in the simple acts of living, breathing, and connecting.
And honestly, that's a pretty incredible invitation to live each day with a sense of awe and wonder, recognizing that divine spark in every encounter and every experience.
Absolutely. So to wrap things up, it seems like the Gita is calling us to a more mindful, intentional way of being in the world.
Yeah, it's urging us to look beyond the surface to see the interconnectedness of all things and to recognize that the divine isn't separate from us. It's woven into the very fabric of our existence.
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
The Bhagavad Gita reminds us that we're not just physical beings, but also spiritual beings having a human experience. And when we embrace that truth, the world transforms before our very eyes.
So to our listeners out there, what will you do today to actually experience this divine presence?
It's a pretty amazing challenge, right? The Gita isn't like giving us a checklist. It's more like an invitation to explore, to discover, to see the world in a whole new way.
And I think that's what makes this deep dive so powerful.
Yeah.
It's not about like memorizing verses or following strict rules. It's about opening ourselves up to a new way of seeing and experiencing the world.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that sense of wonder and awe in the everyday. Maybe it's taking a moment to appreciate the taste of your food or the warmth of the sun. Or maybe it's looking at the people you meet today with more compassion, remembering that they too carry that divine spark.
It's about finding those little glimpses of the divine in the most unexpected places.
Yeah, and trusting that even when things are tough, that divine presence is still there supporting us. guiding us.
So as you go about your day today, we invite you to take a moment, to pause, to breathe, and to look for those moments of connection to something bigger than yourself.
See the world as a reflection of the divine, and let that awareness guide your actions.
The journey is yours to create.